2022. There we go. Meeting to order. And we'll start with roll call. Give me just a second, I'm pulling everything up.
Can you not see it on my screen, Bridget?
Yeah, I also have screens open, so I've got it
Gotcha.
here.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and so we've got Director Hoover, Director Bowler-Jack, Director Poe-Ryder, Director Morris, and Director Larson are all present. And we'll go ahead and move to the agenda items, review of the board calendar. So were you going to do this, Dr. Herndon?
Sure, I'm happy to kick things off, and then we can go through whatever conversation we need to go through. So I believe there was a calendar for the remainder of this particular school year that has.
Oh, you know, actually, I see that the first presentation is the student reps, recruiting, visiting student groups. So is it all right? I'm sorry, we're out of order. So can we go ahead and we'll start with that, if that's all right?
Sure.
All right, yeah, sorry about that, Dr. Herndon. So
that's okay.
Just wanted to be able to have a conversation before May and June to talk about being intentional in recruiting for our next junior rep. And so would welcome any thoughts or ideas on how to go about doing that in the next, because now would be the time for us to sort of prepare for that. So if we are going to review applications and do interviews, say in May, in order to have someone in June or something around there, what that might need to look like.
Yes. I can do just a quick review about how notifications go out, or at least how they were supposed to go out. I think last year they didn't go out the way they had previously in the past, but in the spring, probably around April, is when typically the foster administration team crafts an email out to all students, making them aware of the opportunity to fill out an application to be a student rep. And so it's supposed to go out to all of the classes who are eligible. So it wouldn't go out to freshmen or seniors because those are the students who wouldn't be eligible. So it typically goes out to sophomores because they're the juniors the next year, or it could also go out to juniors if the senior rep was somehow open or available, the senior representative left. But I don't think there's much intentionality beyond that. So I think that's why the conversation's a good one to say, you know, I do know that it goes out to everybody, but there's a lot of stuff that goes out. You know, there are a lot of opportunities for clubs and other things happening. I know that we have wanted to make sure that it's beyond just the leadership class as well. So that usually the email goes out to students and then the teachers for those particular classes as well. So I'm happy to look into other ways in which we could be intentional about reaching out to more students.
We do have recruitment on our Facebook page as well, and there is a video on our website on the Board of Directors page.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of my first question. We did create some videos, I don't know, a year or so ago, I guess, to try and put some more advertising and into getting it out, getting the information out to students. So I don't know. I wonder if in that it's on our Facebook page. I wonder if anybody has watched it or watched them. I don't know how many of them are there, Debbie?
Pardon me, how many, what was the question again?
How many videos? I know I created one. How many, do we have more than one?
Let me go to the website real quick so you can see what that looks like.
Okay.
Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
So we have this application right here, and if you click on it, these are the videos.
Okay. So then the question is, I wonder if, do we have any way of knowing whether anybody actually found them and looked at them?
I would have to look at or have Carrie look at the statistics on this, the users.
Yeah.
This was on our previous website, so this would be new for this website this year. It was just transferred over. So I don't have the stats from the campus suite one. I don't know if anybody has looked at this since, and we can make it more upfront as we start to recruit.
I guess the other question is, so the staff or the principal at Foster is going to send out an email to, like, for all the sophomores. Is there a link to this included in that email? Because otherwise, I don't know how anybody would know that these videos exist.
Yeah, we could make sure that's happening. I think the other way is probably, I mean, I've talked to Sam a couple times about different things, our student rep. So I think asking him what's a good way to connect with students would be good too.
Yep.
Okay.
And the only other, I guess the other thought I had in the past, I think there were staff members, at Foster that, if they had somebody, they, had interaction with somebody they thought might be a good candidate, they would encourage them to apply potentially. And I don't know if that kind of is still going on or not going on, but that's another potential route for recruiting folks.
Another idea would be for the student club advisors. So asking student club advisors to invite students to apply.
Can y'all hear me? Oh, there we go. I think it's working now. Two thoughts that I had that came to mind. I wonder if there's an opportunity, like we went to the civics class to just kind of have a listening thing, but I wonder if there's an opportunity to kind of, for us, some of us to get kind of in front of some students and even talk about like what the value in that role is and what some things that person might do in that role. And then the other thing, thinking about social media, I mean, I'm not a huge social media person anyway, but the young folks, they're not on as Facebook as much anymore. And so I wonder if there's a way, or if we could get someone to help us maybe promote it on TikTok or some other more relevant social media platform to the young people versus sending them to Facebook, which they may or may not be following their district's Facebook page.
We do have an Instagram account. Is that more relevant to our younger?
Definitely more so than Facebook, I think. Yeah, and I don't necessarily think we need to get in the business of getting every social media platform either. But maybe we could create a fun TikTok video as a board. I don't know, that would be kind of funny.
That would be a great question for Samuel to find out, what him and his friends think would be the best way.
Yeah, and I think just talking to him and him doing a video so that he can talk about his experience from the student perspective too would be a good way to go. So I'll try and connect with them. If it's not this week, then next week.
And we can update that presentation to include Director Hoover and Mr. Fiapito as well.
Correct.
Because they're not included yet. Yeah. All right. Anything else on this topic? Got some good ideas to move forward on. And then with the hope that come April, we'll be doing whatever type of recruiting or promoting, and then come maybe May, be able to gather up by the end of May, gather up applications, or we're going to have a busy spring, it looks like, between strategic planning and other things too.
I was also thinking that the foster students have an Instagram page where they announce so many things, and they do it in such a fun manner that they might be able to help us create an Instagram message.
All right, we'll go ahead and move along to the second item. And all right, so for real now, Dr. Herndon, please tell us about the board calendar.
Okay, so we had the attached document that has dates for our meetings, and for the most part, the topics or events that are happening during that particular time. We did try and put this together in the fall and tried to sketch some of these out as much as possible. So you can see a couple of those, like the host school. We haven't, since we've been remote, we typically in the past would go hold at least one board meeting at each school. So I think once we start doing our in-person meetings again, we can do that. But on the original calendar, the April 12th meeting would have been at Cascade View, but since we're virtual, that's not one that we're going to do. So you can see there's quite a few topics that are happening. Sometimes we do move them. Some of these are questions only presentations. So that's what the colors respond to the different pieces. So the green are the questions only. The orange is the work sessions. The purple is the Saturday sessions. And presentation items, you can see the kind of color code legend at the top. So there are times where either we don't have data available yet, and part of the planning with some of these questions only presentations or other presentations were that they were trying to coordinate either the timing of also a possible action item or an update or annual review or approval of something that's in conjunction with those topics. Or in other cases, when we would actually have information or data to be able to report on some of the information. The other items like the work sessions, we did put in some deep dive areas that we knew we were going to try and cover. They are an hour. So the 412 one has 3 topics. Typically, I mean, I think just getting to 1 or 2 is probably about as much as we're going to be able to cover in one work session. So one of those may move unless they're really quick items. But the point of the work sessions is to be a little bit of a deeper dive on that. So I'd want to review these again with the folks, Ms. Chen and Ms. Birdsong, to see if we need to move any of those items to 426. And then we have a couple of still TBDs. The one coming up is the Saturday session, which I know we'll also talk about rescheduling. I thought we had originally had a topic for that, but I see it's still a TBD. So if we're still going to have that, we'll make sure we've got that nailed down by this week, before the end of the week, so we can make sure people are prepared for the topic.
And just as a heads up, I will be out of town then.
Okay.
Would it be possible, if we aren't going out into the host schools, to invite those hosts, whoever they would be, to bring a presentation in with some students just to highlight what's going on at those schools?
You mean like filming something at their school?
Yeah, that's what I
Since
mean.
we're
Yeah.
doing them virtually. Yeah.
Yeah, some kind of presentation so that we would see something highlighted.
Yeah, I mean, we since we're 1, 2, 3, I think we only have 3 left, 4. So it's possible we could look to ask if that's something that they can put together. I know it's a little bit different, but that has been kind of the purpose of the host school, is they do a presentation about their school, something they're focused on. So that's a good idea. We could I can check with the principals about that.
So I have a question about, we had a policy about renaming buildings or parts of buildings. And I was wondering if we were going to address that again, as well as the tech plan. It hasn't been approved yet, to my understanding.
Yep. Those will be topics that will be addressed eventually.
But they're not on the calendar, so does that mean it's going to be a while, or?
So those, if they're approval items, they would be action items. So if we've got those on there, the tech plan is still in process, working with Mr. Baker. The other policy one, we do have a couple of slots that you can see on there on board policy approvals, but we haven't called out each of the policies. So we do have slots in there for policy approval or reviews.
So there's a couple of areas I'd be interested in. So the first one I brought up before, because of the 2020 census, the board is required to review our district boundaries to see that they're still relatively equal. And usually the way that's done is there's a firm hired that goes out and does that analysis and brings it to us. So I'm not sure, this is just going out through June. That could probably be done later. It definitely would has to be done well before the 2023 elections. So I don't know, do you think that should be on this list, or?
It is, as I remember looking at that, it is on this list. I was just looking for that because it's one of the items on here. You mean for the election board director boundaries, or for the
Correct.
actual school boundaries?
Yeah, not the school boundaries, the board, right. District 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boundaries.
Yeah, it is a good, I think we could put that off until the fall to make sure we have there. I don't know if the city is doing any review about their election boundary areas either. So I have not been through that process for elected officials. I've done plenty of boundary exploration for school enrollment, but I haven't done that balancing for board directors. So I'm happy to look into that to see what we have to do to make sure that that happens. But I think we could target that for the fall. That should give us enough time.
Okay, I can fish out the last time we did this, there was a firm that specializes in doing this kind of stuff. And I can send, I don't know if they're still in business, but I can send that to you just as a starting point.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm happy to explore that.
The second one, I'm kind of interested, I would like to see kind of a presentation on all the various community-based organizations that, that we have relationships with, kind of in what they're doing. We've never really seen that. I mean, we've got a number of them, and I think it would be helpful just to know, who they all are, what they're all doing, how we're going about evaluating, which ones are most impactful or not impactful. I think that would be, at least for me, that would be a helpful presentation sometime.
Yes, I know Mr. Howard at least has started part of that in a lot of the review that he's looking at, especially as he's reviewing some of the alterations to budgets that we're expecting, like our Title I budget allocation, our lab budget, because some of our partners we contract out through some of that type of funding, the program funding. So, but yes, I think it's important. Not all of them would be captured in like the Title I or LAP funding, but if we've got a partner and we have a contract with them, it is important to review them all, know where they are, how many schools they're in, kind of what they're it would be good also to take a look at how long they've been with us. So I think all of that is good information for board directors and the public to know how we're partnering with community providers.
Yeah, and also we have measures of, how effective are they, that kind of thing. That's always been, we've always had we have always a lot of community organizations that we kind of get involved with. And I don't think we've been so great about you know, and I think Mr. Howard's probably doing this, trying to analyze, you know, which ones are effective and why they're effective or they're not effective and so forth.
Yeah.
So I had one piece to, I didn't see like soup eval or board eval at all through the end of the year. And so not sure if that would be part of the to be determined, like on a Saturday session or a work session, how that would look. But that, to get that done by the end of the school year would keep us on sort of on the WASDA recommended calendar.
Yeah.
To be able to do those things. And so that would be the piece that I just would encourage to think about where that could be mapped out.
Yeah, for sure. I can take a look at that. And then if we keep this same calendar after the feedback from today, I can try and update this and then highlight a couple of those areas for sure. But yes, the emails are important.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we've got about 8 more minutes. Anything else on this item, or shall we move on to the communicating around Saturday sessions or schedule changes to this calendar? We'll move along then. So the communicating changes to Saturday board meetings. So there, in the last, I know I'm familiar with, like in the last year or two, there has been adjustments made based on if there are speakers that we're coordinating with, or if something happens and it needs to change. This particular item is around communications, so that we all, I mean, we're all very busy. So how do we make sure that everybody gets the information they need? And especially if we're setting aside Saturdays or having to plan work around that, to make sure that we're all able to attend. So thoughts, ideas, concerns on this one?
Yeah, I think just one thing that I'll mention, I think it's how and when the communication piece is important, but I think even what's more important is like how it's approached, right? And so, and I think I mentioned this in the email that I sent to you and Dr. Hernan before, just around like we had a week and a half notice that the date had changed, but that didn't actually help me be able to get there anymore. And so I wonder if it can be more of a, if the date needs to change, it comes to the board as more of an inquiry as, hey, what is another Saturday that works for folks? Because I know for me, I've got the first Saturday, or first Saturday in my calendar, second Saturday in my calendar every month. And so then I'm planning my work obligations and my other volunteer obligations that I have around that time. And particularly my work things, those can't be moved. And so it's not even just a matter of is it being communicated, but what the process is like if it needs to be changed, and how the new date is being determined.
Yeah, I think I can only speak to a couple times in the past when those have happened, and there have been, you know, depending on the year, a lot of changes that can happen, as Director Poe-Ryder had mentioned. And Director Hoover brings up a very good point, because it's, you know, we all try and schedule these pieces. They are important. And yet there have been times where we have had, I think like the first time we had scheduled the board self-evaluation a couple of years ago. And as we were getting closer to the date, I think we were only going to have 3 board members present. So there are a couple of topics that almost you have to have everybody there in order for it to make sense to even have that. So I think if there is an agreed upon way that we can say, well, is it better just to cancel this and move this to the next regularly scheduled one, or to talk about, is there an opportunity to reschedule it sometime in between? I'm happy to engage in whatever process works best for people, because we do want those. It's a significant investment of time. You know, 3 hours is a lot of time to set aside on a Saturday. So we do want to make sure it's worthwhile for people to invest that time and be there. So, and if that can't happen, if there's not enough, there are times where there may be one director out, but if it's going to be, two, and clearly without a quorum, we wouldn't have it. So if 3 people weren't available, we wouldn't have that happen either. But I'm happy to listen to other board directors on what they feel might work best.
Yeah. I think that similar to the calendar that we were looking at, actually mapping out those very important Saturdays way ahead so that we know. So for example, the soup eval or the board evaluation, actually map those out so we know which Saturdays those will be. And then the other idea is if a person is not able to be there in attendance for, every situation is a little different, is there something they can do ahead of time? Like, so for the board evaluation, complete the evaluation ahead of time. Like, is it, if 4 of the 5 are able to attend, do you move forward on that? And then, may check in with the other person in other ways. So there's different ways to be inclusive as well, because I know that I too have a work calendar, care for family members. I do other volunteering. And so it's like that, just deciding that, if a person's not able to attend for some issues, then all of a sudden now we have to change it. That could be a big problem, to have to reschedule everything.
Right.
Any other thoughts on this one?
I guess the only other thought is, if we're talking about like the Saturday sessions in particular, having them, on every second Saturday, and then, so that can be mapped out far in advance. And then if for some reason one of them has to change for some reason, the other way to do it is, there's these programs, Doodle, whatever, that, you can send out to everybody and find out, okay, is there another time that's possible with everybody? I mean, there's software that can do that. And then, if there's not any time, then it just goes to the next Saturday. But if you can find some time, that would show it up potentially.
Yeah, I agree with Director Larson. I think that's probably my preferred kind of way to navigate a reschedule. And again, it's only if, for instance, the person that we're working with, right, needs to change the date, or we don't have the information that we need to move forward. Otherwise, I mean, I think the consistency in that second Saturday is really important. But yeah, utilizing that doodle poll. And I think to Director Ryder's point, I'm such a verbal processor. And so sometimes for me, there's so much value in the group conversation, particularly around something like a board eval. And so I would be hesitant to say, particularly on an important thing like that, that we could just touch base another way, because I think, again, so much of the value comes from the dialogue and the conversation that we have with each other. But that's just my thought. And again, it would depend on the topic.
Anything else before we adjourn? All right. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and we'll see each other in a couple minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.